The air was thin and crisp at the mountain summit. Thomas reached for his camera to capture the dying light. He did not see the pale shape in the distance. The shutter clicked as the wind whistled through jagged peaks. He packed his gear and began the long trek home. Weeks later, he sat in his study with hot coffee. The computer screen displayed the high-resolution images of the climb. He zoomed into a patch of snow near a ridge. A tiny white speck appeared in the corner of the frame. It looked like a man with arms that were too long. Thomas leaned forward to see the face of the figure. Suddenly, a sound like a human scream filled the silent house. It was a sound of absolute and soul-crushing mental agony. The walls shook as something heavy slammed into the front door. Thomas realized that he had invited a nightmare into his home. The pale creature moved faster than the human eye could follow. In the silence of the high-altitude wilderness, the boundaries of the known world were thin, waiting for a single click of a lens to invite an ancient terror into the light of civilization. I'm Dr. Anna, and this is SCP-096. Welcome to the restricted archives of the Foundation's most dangerous secrets. Your support of the channel helps us maintain the global veil. Please subscribe to join our mission to secure the unknown world. Your curiosity is the shield that protects the human race. We examine an entity that thrives on being forgotten. It is a creature defined by a single and lethal paradox. It is extremely docile until it is looked at by eyes. One glimpse of its face marks you for a certain death. Mankind has spent 250,000 years hiding in the dark. We built the Foundation to be the fire of science. We are the holders of wonders and the caretakers of dreams. While the world sleeps, we watch the thing that cries. The significance of this entity is tied to our digital age. We live in a world of constant and global surveillance. Satellites and street cameras watch every inch of our planet's surface. Millions of images are uploaded to the digital web every hour. This connectivity is the greatest weapon of the anomaly's lethal power. A single frame of a face can travel across continents instantly. This makes the shy guy a threat to our entire species. We are not just containing a monster in a steel box. We are containing a viral explosion of death and of sorrow. The Foundation monitors every digital signal that leaves the site wing. We scrub the internet for any trace of the Milky Eyes. We trade our privacy to ensure the survival of the many. The realization that our collective digital memory is a minefield where a single misplaced pixel can trigger the end of a city is a horror that defines our modern era. Item SCP-096 is an anomaly that defies biology. It is classified by the Foundation as Euclid class for Sight. This classification reflects the unpredictable nature of its emotional state. The object is a humanoid being of extreme and gaunt proportions. It stands at exactly 2.38 meters in height. The skin lacks any pigment, and its eyes are quite milky. It shows no signs of any higher brain functions here. It paces near the walls of its cell in total silence. It waits for the moment the line of sight breaks. We maintain a constant and airtight steel cube for its cage. There are to be no optical tools inside the room. We use pressure sensors to ensure the presence of the mass. Our containment protocols are the only thing standing between the light. We manage the hunger of a scream to protect the peace. The tone of the containment wing is one of a tomb. The air stays dry, and it smells of old copper. No cameras or optical tools are permitted inside the restricted zone. We rely on invisible laser detector beams to watch the perimeter. The researchers work in a state of absolute and clinical silence. They know that a single mistake can lead to a breach. They have seen the footage from the mountain recovery incident logs. They have heard the screams of the soldiers who saw face. The fear of observation is a tangible weight in the hallway. Personnel walk with their eyes fixed on the cold floor tiles. They trust the sensors and the heavy iron locking bolts. To spend your life guarding a door that you must never look into is to experience a unique form of psychological isolation that slowly erodes the spirit of even the most hardened veteran agents. The Shy Guy possesses a subtle and very dangerous emotional lure. Some staff members describe hearing a soft and motherly weeping sound. They hear it in the rhythm of their own heartbeats. They feel a desire to comfort the creature in the dark. This is a lingering and very potent psychological hazard for sight. We have lost several agents to a sudden and violent suicide. They left notes about the face that they could not forget. They wanted to rest in the arms of the white fibers. The Foundation has implemented mandatory mental health checks for all staff. We must ensure that the Shy Guy does not claim minds. The battle for containment is a war for our souls. We must remain cold and clinical to stay very human. The most terrifying aspect of the entity is not its strength, but its capacity to make us want to see the face, offering a final and bloody end in a world of silence. The nature of the interior rage remains a deep mystery. We have tried to analyze the creature's response to different stimuli. Each attempt leads to a catastrophic loss of our field assets. The creature does not react to the cold of space. It does not react to the pressure of the deep ocean. It only reacts to the presence of a human observer's gaze. We document the pulse, and we measure the speed constantly. We are the jailers of a logic that we cannot read. The creature represents the ultimate and most persistent predatory instinct on Earth. It is a machine of death that is powered by sight. We must live in a world of mirrors and cameras, yet we must never look at the thing behind the lens. The history of the Foundation is a record of this war. This leads us to the terrifying incidents of the past years. During a routine transport at the site, the bag slipped. The Shy Guy was exposed to a group of civilians nearby, consumed 4 families in less than 2 minutes of time. The creature then sat in the grass and began to weep. It claimed to be looking for a mother among the stars. The Foundation utilized high-intensity incinerators to stop the movement later. We moved the entity to a secondary lead-lined vault area. The milky eyes were covered with a thick and dark cloth. The scars on the containment walls serve as a constant reminder. The object is not a passive relic, but a patient hunter. It waits for the lights to finally and forever go out. The record of the Shy Guy begins in the mountains. We must look at the hands that first touched the film. We must examine the first hiker who saw the white shape. The history of the discovery is a path of blood. We move from the sterile lab to the chaotic breach events. Every discovery we made was tested in the heat of fire. Every theory we held was challenged by the screaming organic mass. We have learned much, but we still know very little. The Shy Guy is resting, and it is dreaming of hands. It is waiting for the power grid to finally fail. For as long as the Foundation stands, we will be. We secure the dark and contain the ancient and pale. We protect the human race from the logic of observation. Mankind has spent 250,000 years hiding secrets. We built the Foundation to be the fire of science. We are the holders of wonders and the caretakers of. SCP-096 reminds us of our small place. We are potential fuel for a machine made of rage. We are data points waiting to be processed by a predator. Behind the heavy iron doors, we sit in the silence. We watch the pulse and we measure the terminal velocity. We do this so the world stays in the light. The history of the Shy Guy is a heavy record. It is written in the bone of a mountain climber. The story begins in the remote valleys of the mountain range. We must travel back to the first moment of sight. We must look at the discovery that changed our mission forever. The snow lay thick across the remote and frozen mountain ridges. A cold wind bit into the skin of the soldiers. Zulu 9 Alpha moved through the white waste in total silence. They were searching for a humanoid shape reported by local hikers. The mission was a standard recovery for the clandestine Foundation teams. A lack of intelligence made the mountain a lethal trap. Captain watched the horizon through his heavy and dark binoculars. His team followed him up the steep and jagged slopes. They spotted the target exactly 2 kilometers to the north. It sat huddled in the snow like a broken child. The creature was pale and entirely devoid of any human clothing. Its long arms were wrapped around its thin and bony legs. To look upon a creature so fragile and small in the vastness of the peaks is to forget that nature often hides its most lethal secrets behind a mask of total vulnerability. The team approached the target with their primary capture equipment. Corporal prepared the heavy burlap bag for the containment. Suddenly, the radio in the captain's pocket began to buzz. A call from Doctor came through at that precise second. The captain turned away to answer the urgent voice command. This small and accidental movement saved his human life forever. His squad continued their advance toward the huddled white shape. The creature shifted its weight and turned its head slowly. 4 men looked directly into the face of the anomaly. A sound like 1,000 screaming souls filled the air. It was a high-pitched and absolute mental agony. The pale creature lunged forward with a speed beyond science. The transition from a state of total docility to a whirlwind of biological rage is a boundary that no human mind can witness and remain entirely sane. The carnage on the slopes was executed with clinical efficiency. The captain heard the sounds of snapping bone and wet tearing. He did not turn back to look at the source. He kept his eyes fixed on the gray stones nearby. The screaming of his men ended in less than a minute. Only the sound of the wind remained in the valley. He felt the presence of a great and heavy sorrow. The captain waited for the death that he knew was coming. But the creature did not strike him down in the snow. It sat back down and began its soft and wet sobbing. The silence that follows a localized extinction event is heavy with the realization that some predators do not seek to hunt, but are forced to kill by the very act of being seen. Backup arrived in the form of Retrieval Team Zulu 9B. They brought a thick black bag to cover the creature's head. The anomaly did not resist as they slipped the fabric on. It remained in a state of total and passive docility then. They loaded the pale mass into the waiting transport chopper. The captain sat in the corner of the cabin, in shock. He was the only survivor of the initial retrieval incident. The Foundation intercepted the earliest civilian reports from a nearby village. Local police documented several missing hikers in the mountain range area. These individuals were experienced climbers who knew the terrain very well. No remains or equipment were ever found at the search sites. The lack of blood or struggle baffled the local authorities. We recognized the signs of a mobile and lethal anomaly. A media blackout was implemented to protect the secret veil. Foundation agents scrubbed the local police files and hospital records. The preservation of normalcy often requires the erasure of a tragedy from the collective memory of a town that has looked too deep into the wild. Historical background research revealed a pattern of strange mountain legends. Indigenous tribes spoke of a weeping spirit that lived in clouds. They claimed that looking at the spirit was a death sentence. This spirit was said to follow its victims across the world. No walls or locks could keep the crying ghost away. These legends provided the first clues regarding the creature's nature. We realized that the anomaly was a persistent and unstoppable tracker. Earliest documentation was written in the field at research area. Scientists noted the creature's extreme sensitivity to its own face. They attempted to analyze the skin and the bone structure. The entity remained entirely motionless during the initial physical probes. It did not react to the sub-zero mountain air. It showed no signs of shivering or of any thermal distress. This suggested a biology that operated outside of standard human norms. The Foundation designated the entity as SCP-096 later. By documenting the physical attributes of a nightmare, the Foundation attempts to turn a primal fear into a manageable variable in a scientific equation. The timeline of involvement moved from recovery to the laboratory. We moved the entity to a temporary holding cell at site. This cell was a basic room of reinforced concrete and steel. We did not yet understand the danger of video surveillance. A technician accidentally viewed a live feed of the creature's face. The anomaly breached 2 heavy steel doors in 5 seconds. It reached the technician in the cafeteria on level 4. The entity left no trace of the subject behind it. We were forced to upgrade the containment to a cube. This cube was fashioned from thick and airtight leaded steel. We removed all cameras and optical tools from the wing. Pressure sensors became the only way to monitor the mass. The realization of the view hazard changed our entire protocol. We understood that sight was the trigger for the rage. A single pixel of facial data was a lethal weapon. We began a global search for any existing photographs of peaks. In an age of digital memory and satellite eyes, the existence of a face that cannot be looked at is a threat to the stability of the entire human species. Early observations focused on the creature's lack of sapience. It showed no reaction to speech or to complex commands. It did not seem to require any form of sustenance. It paced the eastern wall of its cell in silence. The entity appeared to be in a state of malnutrition. Its skin was translucent, and it lacked any body hair. The jaw could open to 4 times the human average. This anatomical anomaly hinted at the violence of the kill. We realized that the creature was a machine of deletion. It did not just kill, it erased its victims entirely. No rescue attempt had ever recovered a single human cell. The Foundation response to these findings was a total purge. We administered Class A amnestics to the surviving military teams. The data regarding the first hikers was permanently and totally redacted. We referred to the lost men as missing biological assets. The academic distance we maintain from our lost colleagues is the only protection we have against the collective trauma of our work. Initial containment attempts included the use of high voltage. We wanted to see if electricity could slow the entity down. The creature ignored the thousands of volts in its path. It moved through the electrical grid without any skin damage. We then tried to use chemical sedatives in the air. The anomaly did not possess a standard human respiratory system. It continued its pursuit without any loss of its speed. These failures taught us that physical barriers were merely suggestions. The only true containment was the prevention of the view. We established the scramble protocol for our field agents later. This involved a visor that filtered out facial data points. But the technology was prone to tiny and lethal glitches. A single frame of a face could bypass the filter. The battle for containment became a race for visual technology. We had to be faster than the light of the sun. The history of the Foundation is a record of this war. We are the jailers of a truth that cannot be looked at, guarding the world from a face that screams in the dark. The significance of the discovery lies in the digital risk. We found a photograph in an old mountaineering magazine later. A tiny white speck was visible on a distant ridge. This speck was confirmed to be SCP-096. The image was taken in the year 1994. It had been in the public record for many decades. We spent 3 months tracking every copy of that issue. We had to ensure that no one zoomed in on the ridge. This was the first recorded long-range trigger event risk. It proved that the anomaly did not care about distance. If you see the face, you are marked for death. The creature will travel across the entire planet to find you. It will move through mountains and through the deep oceans. It will not stop until the view is finally corrected. The Foundation is a wall built of paper and ink. We pretend that our concrete sites are safe from dark. Containment is not a state of peace, but a silent war against the inevitability of a single misplaced human gaze. The record of the discovery leads us to description. We have seen the first site and the mountain slopes. We have documented the loss of Zulu 9 Alpha Squad. We have built the airtight steel cube for the cage. We must look at the anatomy of the guy. We must examine the biology of a scream in the dark. The story of the shy guy is a record of sight. It is a testament to the horror of being observed. The next section reveals the truth of the milky eyes. We prepare to unlock the description of the pale hunter. Stay in the light and keep your eyes down tonight. The world is a safer place when the face stays shut. For as long as the Foundation stands, we will protect. We will secure the dark and contain the white mass. The history of the Foundation is a heavy record. It is written in the bone of a mountain climber. The next section details the physical traits of the anomaly. We will look at the proportions and the bone structure. The archive remains open for those who dare look. In the silence that precedes the revelation of the files, remember that the most dangerous thing in this universe is the curiosity that makes you want to look into the dark. The physical characteristics of SCP-096 are a defiance of all known evolutionary biological paths. Its arms reach a length of 1.5 meters. This gives the entity a reach that is grossly unnatural. The skin is a pale gray that matches the mountain mist. To see it moving in the snow is to see a ghost. The description of the anomaly begins with the milky eyes. The physical form of SCP-096 is a masterpiece of biological distortion. It stands at a height of exactly 2.38 meters. Its frame is gaunt and suggests a state of chronic malnutrition. The skin is a deathly pale and completely lacks any pigment. No hair grows anywhere on the entity's long and spindly body. To look upon its elongated limbs and translucent skin is to witness a creature that has been stripped of every familiar human trait, leaving only a skeletal caricature of our own species. The arms are grossly out of proportion with the rest of its frame. Each arm measures approximately 1.5 meters in length. These limbs hang like heavy pendulums against its pale and thin thighs. The muscle mass is minimal and appears insufficient for its extreme strength. The entity possesses a skeletal structure that defies standard medical analysis. The realization that such a fragile and broken shape can harbor a force capable of shredding steel suggests that the creature's power is not derived from its meat, but from a deeper and more ancient source. The most disturbing features are found upon the creature's gaunt head. Its eyes are a milky white and devoid of any pupils. Researchers remain unsure if the entity possesses the ability to see. The jaw is a structural anomaly that defies standard human limits. It can open to 4 times the width of an average person. This cavernous mouth is filled with rows of pale and blunt teeth. The sheer physical impossibility of its anatomy serves as a chilling reminder that the laws of nature are merely a set of rules that the anomaly has chosen to ignore. The rest of its face remains frozen in a neutral expression. It shows no signs of higher intelligence or of complex thought. The entity is not considered to be a sapient being. It functions as a biological system driven by a single primitive instinct. We document the lack of brain activity during periods of rest. The hollow and staring eyes of the creature reflect a void where a human personality should exist, leaving only a cold and clinical silence. Under normal circumstances, the creature is known to be extremely docile. It spends its time pacing the eastern wall of its cell. Pressure sensors indicate a repetitive and rhythmic pattern of movement there. It does not react to the presence of nearby researchers or guards. It does not require any food or any water for survival. In the sterile silence of the steel containment cube, the entity exists in a state of permanent and listless hibernation, waiting for the one event that will wake its rage. This passive state is a deceptive mask for a lethal trigger. The entity is a bomb waiting for a single human gaze. It shows no reaction to auditory or tactile stimuli during rest. We maintain a constant watch on the movement patterns of the mass. The stillness of the containment wing is a fragile veil that can be shattered by a single frame of film, proving that a lack of action is not the same as a state of safety. The transition into a state of rage is sudden and violent. This occurs when a person views the face of the entity. Sight is the primary catalyst for its immediate emotional distress. This trigger works through direct eye contact or through digital media. Photographs and video recordings are equally capable of sparking the rage. The psychological torment expressed by the creature suggests that it views its own existence as a source of unbearable shame, a shame it must erase by destroying everyone who witnesses it. Approximately 1 to 2 minutes after the first, viewing the entity changes. It covers its face with its long and pale hands. It begins to babble and scream in a high-pitched tone. This vocalization is described as a sound of absolute mental agony. The entity enters a state of significant and escalating emotional distress. By the time the screaming reaches its peak, the target has already been marked for an inevitable and horrific end. This period of vocalization acts as a precursor to the chase. Then the entity begins its pursuit of the individual observer. We designate this person as SCP-096-1. The creature possesses an innate sense of the target's exact location. It does not matter if the subject is miles away. It does not matter if they are hidden behind heavy lead. The terrifying disconnect between the vastness of our world and the creature's ability to navigate it through a single glance renders every hiding place a temporary tomb. The entity begins to run with a speed that defies physics. Speeds have been clocked between 35 and 500 kilometers. No material can impede its forward progress across the Earth. It moves through mountains and through the deep ocean with ease. The creature does not tire, and it does not ever stop. We have observed it swimming through pressures that would crush a submarine. Its determination is an absolute constant in a world of variables. Scientific observations confirm that the entity is functionally indestructible during pursuit. During retrieval incident 096-1 Alpha, soldiers used weapons. An anti-tank gun was fired directly into its pale chest. The blast removed approximately half of the entity's upper torso. The creature did not flinch or slow its aggressive forward pace. To witness a humanoid shape survive the total erasure of its internal organs is to understand that we are fighting a war against a force that has moved beyond the concept of death. It continued to tear through the squad despite the massive trauma. Analysis of the remains showed that the bone structure remained unhurt. High-caliber rounds from a door gunner had no measurable effect. 600 rounds of ammunition were pumped into its white flesh. The creature ignored the lead as if it were mere rain. Its skeletal system appears to be composed of an unknown mineral alloy. This internal armor protects the core of its being from any harm. Upon reaching the target, the entity proceeds to kill them. This process is documented as being absolute and without any mercy. 100% of cases have left no biological trace behind. We do not know if the entity consumes the entire body. We do not know if it relocates the remains elsewhere. The record of its violence is a black box that contains only the sound of wet tearing and the silence that follows. After the target is erased, the entity regains its docility. It sits on the ground for several minutes and then weeps. It then attempts to return to its original and natural habitat. This transition from a whirlwind of rage back to a broken child is the most disturbing aspect of its behavior. It seems to mourn the very carnage that it has caused. The entity is a prisoner of its own lethal and biological programming. There is a single and notable exception to the visual trigger. Artistic depictions of the creature's face do not cause a reaction. Sketches and paintings are safe for the human eye to view. This suggests that the trigger is tied to the physical reality. It needs the specific data points of an actual biological likeness. This limitation allows our research teams to map its facial features. We use forensic artists to create a visual record for study. The fact that a drawing is safe, while a single pixel of light is lethal, proves that the anomaly operates on a level of perception that we are only beginning to comprehend. This safety is the only way we can look at the guy. We use the tools of the artist to fight the monster. The archive holds several portraits that capture the milky and blind eyes. These images allow us to study the anatomy without triggering death. The scope of the trigger was tested using satellite imagery later. We found that distance is not a factor in the rage. A tiny white speck in a photograph triggered an event. This photograph was taken in the year 1994. It had been in the public record for several long decades. A civilian hiker zoomed in on a distant, snowy mountain ridge. The entity detected the observation from across a vast distance immediately. It traveled over 1,000 kilometers to reach the hiker's home. The realization that an ancient photograph can act as a long-range homing beacon for a predator is a truth that haunts our digital age. This event proved that the entity is a global threat. A single image on the internet could cause a chain reaction. We must scrub the digital web for every trace of it. One misplaced pixel is a death sentence for a city. We have conducted tests on the entity's sensory and nervous system. The creature shows no reaction to extreme heat or extreme cold. It was found in a mountain region at -20 degrees. It was naked and did not show any signs of shivering. It does not possess a standard human respiratory or circulatory system. This explains why it can survive the vacuum of space or water. The internal organs appear to be vestigial and serve no purpose. The entity is powered by an energy that we cannot measure. By stripping away the requirements for oxygen and warmth, the anomaly has perfected itself as the ultimate and most persistent tracker in existence. It is a machine of termination that never runs out of fuel. It is a ghost that has been given a physical weight. The intelligence of the entity remains a subject of intense debate. It shows no response to complex linguistic or cognitive testing trials. It does not use tools or attempt to communicate with staff. Its pacing is mindless and follows a fixed and simple path. Yet its ability to navigate complex terrain suggests a specialized spatial. It can find a target in a crowd of thousands easily. It ignores every other human during its focused and lethal pursuit. This discriminating appetite proves it is not a mindless beast. It is a hunter with a very specific and rare taste. It seeks the one who saw, and it seeks nothing else. The clinical files describe it as a non-sapient humanoid being. But the efficiency of its work suggests a darker and more focused. Scientific observations of its bone density revealed a crystalline structure. The marrow is replaced by a dense and black organic fluid. This fluid conducts the neural signals at near instantaneous and high speeds. It allows the entity to react faster than the human eye. We have attempted to take a small sample of this bone. Every drill bit shattered against the surface of its pale ribs. The entity remained entirely motionless during the failed and loud attempts. It did not acknowledge the researchers or the pain of Its physical body is a vessel for a rage that is. The integration of mineral and meat creates a biological fortress of. We are the keepers of a stone that is shaped like man. The entity's response to different levels of light is also documented. It does not react to the intensity of the sun or darkness. It can track a target in a total and absolute visual void. This confirms that its sense of location is not tied to sight. It is a psychic or a spatial tether that connects them. The milky eyes are likely non-functional or purely decorative in. The creature sees its prey through the fabric of reality itself. To stand in its presence is to be viewed by a void. The history of its discovery is a record of our failure. We move from the sterile lab to the chaotic containment wing. Every breakthrough was tested in the heat of a breach event. We have learned much, but we still know very little tonight. Mankind has spent 250,000 years hiding in fear. We built the Foundation to be the steel and glass shield. We are the holders of wonders and caretakers of the dark. But SCP-096 reminds us of our small place. We are potential fuel for a machine made of ancient rage. We are data points waiting to be corrected by a scream. Behind the heavy iron doors, we sit in the silence, we watch the pulse, and we measure the terminal velocity. We do this so the world stays in the light end. The history of the shy guy is a heavy and pale. It is written in the bone of a hiker in the transition from description to containment procedures is a cold path. We move from the anatomy of the scream to cage. Every discovery we made was a step toward a better cage. The record of the biological anomalies leads us to the cube. We must examine how we keep the face from the world. We must look at the laser detectors and the sensors used. The story of containment is a story of a silent tomb. We build the walls and we install the airtight seals. We do this so the world never hears the babbling sounds. The path to security is paved with the milky white eyes. The story of the Pale Hunter continues in the protocols. We will return to the archive to see the steel pulse. Stay in the light and keep your eyes down tonight here. The history of the Foundation is a heavy and pale record. It is written in the steel of a 5-meter cube. The transition to the containment wing is a path of silence. We move into the sterile environment of Site 19 here. This is how we keep the face of the guy shut. The containment procedures for SCP-096 are absolute. The containment of the Pale Hunter is a masterclass in clinical isolation. SCP-096 is held within a 5-meter airtight steel cube. This structure is more of a tomb than a holding cell. Weekly inspections for structural cracks or microscopic holes are mandatory. No windows or viewing ports exist in this reinforced structure. The Foundation has essentially built a fortress of absolute blindness. In the sterile silence of Site 19, we have learned that the only way to coexist with this entity is to ensure that its physical presence never touches the human mind through the medium of light. Standard video surveillance is strictly forbidden within the containment wing. We rely instead on pre-installed pressure sensors and laser detector beams. These tools confirm the subject's position along the eastern wall of the cube. They do not transmit any visual data to our monitoring stations. This ensures that the site staff remains safe from accidental observation events. We manage the presence of the mass through variables of weight and movement. The reliance on indirect sensors creates a unique psychological tension for the site guards, who must trust the steady pulse of a digital signal over the certainty of their own human sight. Access to the containment wing is highly restricted and absolute. Approval for any interaction requires authorization from Dr. Dan. The O5 Council must also sign off on any likeness research. All photographic and video recordings of the subject remain forbidden. We scrub the global internet for any potential traces of its face. One forgotten image from a mountain ridge can kill a city. This constant digital vigilance is our most important containment procedure. By treating a single pixel as a high-risk biohazard, the Foundation maintains a wall of ignorance that protects the collective sanity of the entire human species. Early containment attempts were far less sophisticated than our modern sites. We initially housed the subject in a standard reinforced concrete room. Standard closed-circuit cameras were used to monitor its daily movements. A technician accidentally glimpsed a single frame of the creature's face. This resulted in the immediate destruction of 2 heavy steel doors. The technician was erased in the site cafeteria several minutes later. We realized that distance and digital encryption are irrelevant to the rage. The transition to the current blind protocol was a necessity born of blood. The history of this wing is a record of our slow realization that modern technology is often the subject's most effective weapon against us. Revisions to the security measures followed the mountain recovery incident. Retrieval of the subject is always considered an alpha priority. This is due to the possibility of a mass chain reaction event. If the creature enters a populated area, the death toll is infinite. We utilize heavy burlap bags for initial capture and transport. These bags are thickened to prevent any light from passing through. Any and all civilians in the vicinity must be detained immediately. Class amnestics are administered to ensure the secret remains buried. The preservation of the veil requires the total erasure of any person who has seen the white shape in the snow. The security staff at Site 19 Sector 4 is specialized. These men and women are trained in non-visual navigation tactics. They operate using acoustic tracking and thermal silhouettes only. They are prohibited from carrying any personal mobile or optical devices. One accidental camera flash could mark an entire squad for termination. The cost of a security breach is a total site lockdown. This includes the activation of the on-site nuclear fail-safe device. We would rather lose a facility than lose control of the face. To spend your career in a wing where you are forbidden from looking at your charge is to live in a state of professional and sensory deprivation that only the Foundation can demand of its personnel. Personnel requirements for likeness research are restricted to Level 4. Even senior researchers must undergo a mandatory psychological evaluation first. The stress of knowing a face exists that can kill is potent. Many subjects develop a unique form of anxiety known as viewphobia. They fear every reflective surface and every dark corner of sight. We provide counseling to manage these deep-seated and persistent fears. The Foundation is cold, but the Foundation is not cruel here. We carry the mental scars so that the world stays safe. The clinical distance we maintain from the anomaly is our only true protection against the contagious nature of its biological and emotional distress. Significant changes to the protocol occurred after Incident 0961 Alpha. Dr. Dan has formally petitioned for the subject's permanent termination. This request is under review by the O5 Council. The proposal suggests that containment is no longer a viable long-term solution. The viral risk of a digital trigger event is too high. We have moved from a philosophy of study to one of execution. The approval of the termination order marks a dark milestone for SITE. We are transitioning from the jailers of a nightmare to its final and clinical executioners, acknowledging that some anomalies are too dangerous for even our most reinforced steel boxes. Security measures during transport are even more extreme and restricted. The subject must be heavily sedated before any movement is attempted. It is then placed inside a lead-lined and windowless transport container. Armed escorts are authorized to use lethal force on any observers. This includes curious civilians or rival agency operatives on the road. The route is cleared by undercover field agents several hours in advance. We use the cover of a hazardous materials spill to block roads. The secrecy of the move is the only thing protecting the highway. The Foundation manages the risk of the stars to protect the light of day. The evolution of containment was a path of blood and bone. Every new protocol was written in a lost human soul. We move from physical cages to energetic and blind nets. We move from ignorance to a specialized and very clinical fear. The subject continues to watch and to wait for a view. It waits for the power grid to finally and forever fail. On that day, the scream will travel through the sight vents. The hunter will return to reclaim its privacy among the stars. We pray that the sight strobe lights never flicker or die. The history of the Foundation is a record of our fear. The storage of likeness data is a specialized field of study. We keep the authorized photographs in a vacuum-sealed lead vault. These images are encrypted using a non-visual cryptographic logic gate. Only a dedicated AI unit can process the raw facial data. This AI is not connected to any site or global networks. It operates in a state of permanent and digital isolation. The AI maps the proportions of the bone and skin structures. It provides us with the variables without the lethal pixels. By transforming a nightmare into a series of mathematical equations, the Foundation attempts to turn a primal terror into a manageable scientific data point. The record of the containment leads us into the research logs. We move from the cages to the experimental and clinical data. Every discovery we documented was a step toward a better cage. Every life we lost was a variable in a grand equation. We have learned that the subject is a patient and lethal predator. It waits for the human mind to let go of its anchor. We are the keepers of a scream that wants to be heard. The subject is resting, and it is dreaming of the mountains. For as long as the Foundation stands, we will protect. I am Dr. Anna, and the containment wing is sealed. The research phase of SCP-096 reveals the truth. The clinical research phase for SCP-096 began with forensic art. Standard cameras were forbidden within the containment wing of Site 19. We relied on a talented team of sketch artists for data. They were given high-resolution descriptions from the mountain recovery teams. A sketch of the creature does not trigger the rage state. This breakthrough allowed the Foundation to study the facial structure safely. The artists described a face that felt like a biological void. It lacked any familiar human warmth or any spark of life. The realization that a charcoal line is harmless, while a single pixel is lethal, suggests the anomaly interacts with the very nature of biological reality. The bone structure of the entity is a biological fortress. X-ray analysis revealed a density 3 times the human norm. The marrow appears to be replaced by a black organic liquid. This liquid conducts neural signals at near instantaneous and high speeds. The logic of its movement is a machine of pure efficiency. Every bone in the spindly frame serves the singular pursuit. It is as if the creature was grown in a lab. By analyzing the crystalline structure of its pale ribs, our scientists have glimpsed a skeleton designed to survive the end of the world. We conducted a series of climate tests within the chamber. The entity was exposed to temperatures of -100 degrees. It showed no signs of shivering or of any distress. It does not possess a standard human heart or lungs. It does not seem to require any form of oxygen. The entity is a self-sustaining biological engine of death. It draws its energy from a source we cannot measure. The resilience of a creature that ignores the basic needs of life proves that we are dealing with a force that predates biology. Dr. Dan proposed the Scramble Vision System for our field agents. This gear utilized a high-speed camera and a microprocessor unit. It was designed to detect the facial features of the guy. A small screen would display a blurred patch over the face. Field tests in area were initially reported as successes. The agents could walk near the entity without any reaction. They felt like masters of the impossible during the test. The tragic irony of vision technology is that it created a false sense of security that resulted in a total massacre. The failure of the scramble gear was a matter of milliseconds. A single frame of the face reached the human eye first. The digital processor was too slow for the anomalous trigger state. 4 agents were lost during the final field trial in mountains. The entity shredded the titanium-reinforced visors like they were paper. We realized that the marked state is not a digital process. It is a fundamental law of the universe being observed. To believe that a microchip could outpace the fundamental laws of an anomalous tracker led to the bloodiest failure in site history. Important breakthroughs were made in the field of resolution thresholds. Incident 0961 Alpha involved a specific photograph. A civilian hiker viewed a 4-pixel image of the face. The image was a tiny white speck on a snowy ridge. The distance of 1,000 kilometers was irrelevant to the trigger. This event proved that the anomaly does not care about size. It only requires a specific and rare arrangement of visual data. The realization that a subatomic amount of visual data can act as a death warrant across a continent defines the viral danger of the digital age. We attempted a deep-sea pursuit test with Subject D-Class. The target was placed inside a reinforced bathyscaphe at the floor. The entity detected the observation from a surface vessel miles away. It entered the water with a speed of 100 knots. It ignored the crushing pressure of the midnight zone without pause. The bathyscaphe was ripped open in less than 1 minute of time. No biological remains of the D-Class were ever found there. To witness a humanoid shape sprint across the ocean floor with the grace of a predator is to understand that physics is merely a suggestion to the guy. Scientific theories regarding its origins focus on the concept of shame. The creature hides its face as if it were a wound. It reacts with intense and high-pitched metallic screams when seen. This emotional response suggests a form of extreme and persistent trauma. Some believe the entity was once a human being who was cursed. Others think it is a guardian of a secret mountain gate. The psychological profile of a machine that uses the voice of a broken child to lure its prey is a horror that no amount of clinical detachment can mask. We conducted detailed neurological scans during the creature's periods of rest. The results showed a complete lack of any higher brain functions. The entity does not possess a personality or any human memories. It functions as a distributed neural network of vast and lethal complexity. It paces the eastern wall of its cell in total silence. It waits for the moment the line of sight finally breaks. We are the jailers of a logic that we cannot read. The entity represents the ultimate and most persistent predatory instinct on our planet. Failed experiments involving high voltage yielded zero anomalous results for us. The creature was hit with 10,000 volts of electrical energy. It did not show any signs of muscle spasms or pain. It did not acknowledge the researchers or the high-intensity shocks. Its physical body is merely a vessel for a rage state. The integration of mineral and meat creates a biological fortress of. We are the keepers of a stone that is shaped like. The history of its research is a record of our failure. The entity's response to different levels of light is also documented. It does not react to the intensity of the sun or darkness. It can track a target in a total and absolute visual void. This confirms that its sense of location is not tied to sight. It is a psychic or a spatial tether that connects them. The milky eyes are likely vestigial or purely decorative in nature. The creature sees its prey through the fabric of reality itself. To stand in its presence is to be viewed by a void. Mankind has spent 250,000 years hiding in fear. We built the Foundation to be the steel and glass shield. We are the holders of wonders and caretakers of the dark. But SCP-096 reminds us of our small place. We are potential fuel for a machine made of ancient rage. We are data points waiting to be corrected by a screen. Behind the heavy iron doors, we sit in the silence. We watch the pulse, and we measure the terminal velocity. We do this so the world stays in the light. The significance of the discovery lies in the digital risk. We found a photograph in an old mountaineering magazine later. A tiny white speck was visible on a distant snowy ridge. This speck was confirmed to be the face of the guy. The image was taken in the year 1994. It had been in the public record for many decades. We spent 3 months tracking every copy of that specific issue. We had to ensure that no one zoomed in on Ridge. One misplaced pixel is a death sentence for a city. The record of the biological anomalies leads us to the cube. We must examine how we keep the face from the world. We must look at the laser detectors and the sensors used. The story of containment is a story of a silent tomb. We build the walls and we install the airtight seals. We do this so the world never hears the babbling sounds. The path to security is paved with the milky white eyes. The story of the Pale Hunter continues in the protocols. We will return to the archive to see the steel pulse. The research phase of SCP-096 revealed the truth of. We learned that the creature is a patient and lethal predator. It waits for the human mind to let go of anchor. We move from the sterile lab to the chaotic containment wing. Every breakthrough was tested in the heat of a breach event. We have learned much, but we still know very little. The guy is resting, and it is dreaming of the mountains. For as long as the Foundation stands, we will protect. Mankind has spent 250,000 years hiding secrets. We built the Foundation to be the fire of science. We are the holders of wonders and caretakers of dreams, but the shy guy is a reminder of our small place. We are fuel for a machine made of hair and bone. We are data points waiting to be processed by an architect. Behind the heavy iron doors, we sit in the silence, we watch the pulse, and we measure the thermal heat. We do this so the world stays in the light. The transition from research to the incident logs is a dark path. We move from the sterile lab to the chaotic breach events. Every discovery we made was tested in the heat of fire. Every theory we held was challenged by the screaming organic mass. We have learned much, but we still know very little. The entity is resting, and it is dreaming of the stars. It is waiting for the power to finally and forever fail. For as long as the Foundation stands, we will be jailers. I am Dr. Anna, and the research wing is closing. The records of the motherboard incidents begin with the first breach. We will examine the moments when the artificial winter failed. We will look at the people who walked into the white fibers. The archive remains open for those who dare look tonight. In the silence between my words, remember the cold truth of sight. The most dangerous thing in this universe is not the stone itself. It is the hunger that waits for the power to fail. The history of the Foundation is a heavy and pale record. It is written in the steel of a 5-meter cube. The transition to the incident reports begins in the basement of sight. We must look at the moments when the world saw the face. The story of the shy guy continues in the darkness of breach. Stay in the light and keep your eyes down tonight here. For as long as we maintain the thermal envelope at sight, the world remains a place where we are still very free. The record of the major incidents begins with a scream. The history of the Pale Hunter is a record written in blood. Every breakthrough in our scientific understanding was paid for with lives. We must look back at the initial recovery of the creature. Captain oversaw the first containment efforts in the mountains. He led retrieval team Zulu 9 Alpha into the freezing air. They expected a standard bag and tag operation that winter night. Instead, they found a biological machine of absolute and clinical termination. The captain watched as his men approached the huddled white shape. A sudden phone call forced him to turn his head away. That single and accidental movement saved his human life forever. To witness an entire squad of elite soldiers erased in seconds is to understand that containment is often just a temporary pause in a much longer and more violent history of loss. Internal investigations into the mountain bloodbath were cold and very brief. The captain described the scene with a sense of lingering dread. He spoke of the high-pitched and absolute mental agony. His corporal had prepared the heavy burlap bag for the capture. The creature shifted its weight and exposed its gaunt facial features. 4 men looked directly into the face of the anomaly then. The screaming that followed was not entirely from the human victims. The entity itself began to wail with a soul-crushing intensity. The transition from a state of total docility to a whirlwind of rage is a boundary that no human mind can witness and remain entirely sane. The casualties of retrieval incident 0961 Alpha were total. Every member of the squad besides the captain was erased. The captain attempted to slow the entity using an anti-tank gun. He fired the heavy weapon directly into the creature's pale chest. The blast removed approximately half of the entity's upper torso. The creature did not flinch or slow its aggressive forward pace. It continued to tear through the soldiers with half a body. To stand in the presence of a humanoid shape that ignores the total erasure of its internal organs is to understand that we are fighting a force that has moved beyond the concept of physical death. The Foundation response to this failure was an immediate tactical upgrade. We moved the entity to Site 19 under a heavy shroud. New protocols forbade any visual monitoring of the primary containment cell. We realized that a single frame of film was a weapon. Distance and digital encryption were proven to be entirely irrelevant variables. If you see the face, you are marked for termination. The creature will travel across the entire planet to find you. It will move through mountains and through the deep ocean floor. The realization that our collective digital memory is a minefield where a single misplaced pixel can trigger the end of a city is a horror that defines our modern era. This leads to the most significant event known